Well, greetings, folks. There are just 9 days until Election Day. Across the country, more than 40 million Americans have already cast a ballot. And breaking this morning, the Harris campaign just announced that over the next 4 days, the vice president and Governor Walz will barnstorm all 7 battleground states, focusing on get out the vote efforts. Now, the VP's busy schedule includes a major address on Tuesday at the Ellipse near the White House. The campaign is billing that speech as her closing argument. And just yesterday, Mrs. Michelle Obama made the case for Harris at a rally in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Kamala, she's putting herself out there fearlessly, facing down even her harshest critics. She's seeking out Republicans to find common ground. And unlike her opponent, she's not ducking interviews or cowering in safe spaces only with fawning audiences. No, she's showing us what a sane, stable leader looks like.
And here's what I say to the folks who are watching. It's either Donald Trump in there stewing over his enemies list, or me working for you, checking off my to-do list.
Joining us now is Deputy Principal Campaign Manager for the Harris-Walz campaign, Quentin Fulks.
Hey, Quentin, good morning to you. 9 days, and you're still looking good, man. You're looking fresh. I love it. Hey, look, you know, last night was probably a moment in the campaign. Every campaign has that moment where everyone stops and go, did that just happen? Mm-hmm. And that could be either like really good or really bad. Last night was really, really good for the campaign. You had Michelle Obama doing, I think, a very important framing. A framing, to be quite honest, even her husband couldn't get landed right in the socket the way it needed to. What was your thoughts when she talked about her frustration with the double standard, for example, trying to woo those voters that really are still on the fence? Let's take a quick listen to what she had to say about that.
So I hope you'll forgive me if I'm a little frustrated that some of us are choosing to ignore Donald Trump's gross incompetence while asking Kamala to dazzle us at every turn. I hope that you'll forgive me if I'm a little angry that we are indifferent to his erratic behavior, his obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon, a known slumlord, a predator found liable for sexual abuse. All of this while we pick apart Kamala's answers from interviews that he doesn't even have the courage to do.
You can't argue with the way she framed that. How do you think this resonates with those few undecided voters that are out there?
Well, good morning. Hopefully it resonates well. There are very few out there that could make the case, as well as former First Lady Michelle Obama. But look, we've known that this double standard exists the whole time. And what we've done is run straight through it. That is why we put the vice president in positions to go and talk to those voters that may be watching Fox News, to talk to voters who are in places where Democrats don't traditionally go, because we're not worried about that. We're worried about being president for all of America. That's where the vice president's head is, and that's where the focus is. And hopefully Michelle Obama's comments from last night sent a jolt through those undecided voters to wake up. You still have 9 days to wake up and make the right decision about somebody who is going to wake up every single day thinking about you checking off their to-do list, or somebody who's only going to be thinking about themselves. And we've seen Donald Trump do that. He only cares about himself. And so we're going to continue to keep our head down and run straight through the tape all the way through November 5th.
And Quentin, as you well know, the vice president is making that argument herself, both that Trump is unstable and that the stakes have never been higher. Let's take a listen to what she had to say just yesterday in Michigan.
And this is not 2016 or 2020. The stakes are even higher because over the last 8 years, Donald Trump has become more confused, more unstable, and more angry. And it is clear he has become increasingly unhinged. But the last time at least there were people who could control him. But notice, they're not with him this time.
Quinton, is this a preview of what we can expect to hear from the vice president Tuesday in her speech at the Ellipse?
Look, I think it's a part of it. I think that she is absolutely going to talk about Donald Trump's deterioration. She's going to talk about how somebody who is running for president of the United States is talking about openly using the United States military against its own citizens. He's calling America the garbage can of the world. This is somebody who's running for president of the United States. So, of course, the vice president is going to lay that out and deliver a very stark contrast that she is hopeful and optimistic about the future of this country. Donald Trump is still driven by chaos and wants to drive division within this country because that's his brand of leadership. But counter to that, the vice president is also going to make sure that she is laying out a new generation of leadership, a new way forward in this country, because that within itself is also a stark contrast with Donald Trump, is that he wants to take us back and drag us back to places that we've already been when he was president, and unfortunately even long before, back in times way, way before many people who are voting today were even born. But the vice president has a different vision for this country, one that is driven by hope and optimism that everyone in America can succeed and have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. And so that is what you're going to hear from the vice president as she makes her case, her closing argument to the jury, which we know is the American people.
You know, Quinton, this, it struck me that last night, y'all were in Kalamazoo, or Kamalazoo, as many people have been referring to it as. And there is new reporting from NBC that the campaign is hoping to offset what may be some losses of support from various base demographics in Detroit and in places like Dearborn with the suburbs. And so going to Kalamazoo yesterday, and then after the rally, Governor Whitmer and the vice president, they went to a brewery, a bar where a local beer is made in Kalamazoo, and they sat at the bar and they drank the beer and looked to have a really good time. Like, that's that retail politics, going there, visiting with folks. Y'all are looking to offset some of those losses with the suburbs, and this, what we saw last night, is an example of that. Yes, there's the beer. Cheers, okay? Talk to us just a little bit about the strategy as it relates to the suburbs in Michigan and just the Michigan writ large, and how do you think you all are going to do in the state?
Well, look, it is going to be a close election. It is a battleground state. We don't look at it as much as offsetting losses. And I've been on this show before with you all, and I've talked about going to rural communities and rural places and suburban communities and losing by less than you know, Democrats traditionally do, because it all adds up in the wash. Yep. But this, at the end here, is more about getting in front of everyone. And those voters in the suburbs like Kalamazoo, they matter just as much as those base Democratic voters that you're referring to in Flint and in Detroit. And so we are just simply trying to do it all here in the stretch. It is not about sort of making up losses here or there. This is campaigning, and this is what it looks like when you have a leader who say that they want to be a president for everybody. They're putting in the work. She's going to these places because she is showing through her actions, even as she campaigns over these last 10 days here, as of yesterday, that she's going to be a president for all Americans. And that means going to the belly of the beast where they are, so they can see you, so they can hear from you, so they can tell you their concerns. And that is what this president, Vice President Harris, is doing.
So, Quinton, to the young brothers in Detroit and Atlanta and Philly, Baltimore, across the country, the young men who, in this discussion around abortion, seemingly have been detached from it by the right. You know, they got this bro culture. You know, it's about the man, you know, the woman, we just need you to be quiet and pregnant. So the moment that, for me, was really one of the more profound moments, and there were a few in Michelle Obama's speech, was this, when she's talked about the value of women and whose side are you on. Let's take a quick listen.
So please, please do not hand our fates over to the likes of Trump, who knows nothing about us, who has shown deep contempt for us. Because a vote for him is a vote against us, against our health, against our worth. To think that the men that we love could be either unaware or indifferent to our plight is simply heartbreaking. It is a sad statement about our value as women in this world. So, fellas, before you cast your votes, ask yourselves, what side of history do you want to be on?
I'm just going to have you comment on it. I just thought that was such a profound moment where she connected a lot of dots and wires and important conversations with men and women about what women go through. It's not just about being pregnant. It is about being a woman. And I just thought it was very important. How did you think that resonates?
I mean, incredibly powerful. Look, it's almost unfair of me that you all put me after a clip like that to try to articulate it. There is honestly nothing that I could say. Look, what I will plug is that, you know, our campaign has been doing a lot to get the stories out there, as these rallies that I know are being broadcast on television now and on our Instagram and Facebook pages when we are doing them, and we have victims of people who have been impacted by Donald Trump overturning Roe. And these women who live in these states, 1 in 3 women of reproductive age live in a state under abortion ban directly because of Donald Trump, and he wants to make that 3 out of 3 women of reproductive age by bringing in a total abortion ban, a nationwide abortion ban. And so as you listen to these testimonials, just take a step back and internalize what Michelle Obama was saying to you there, is that this could be your sister, this could be your mother, this could be your aunt, this could be your daughter. And for a lot of them, that make it, there are a number of stories out there that are not being told of women who are not making it. And I think that is the point that Michelle Obama was trying to get across. And so these stories can be hard to watch. We've made some stuff, and I oversee some of the paid media on the campaign. We've made some stuff that I've second-guessed if we should put it out. It could be hard to watch. But at the end of the day, by not putting it out, we're hiding the reality that millions of women across this country are facing. And we have an opportunity as men, and I'm segueing it to men, all Americans have an opportunity, but men specifically to your question, have an opportunity to do something about it, to make that not the reality for our girlfriends, for our wives, for our sisters, for our mothers, for our daughters, for our cousins. And that is what Michelle Obama was saying there, and it resonated deeply with me, and I hope that it resonates deeply with every man who saw it last night as well.
I hope so as well. Quentin Fawkes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate you, brother.